Hello, hi everyone. My name is Stella Waitera, and welcome to the Africa STEM Summit 2024, day two. Today we are going in this in the front end track, we are going to be covering front end application with Playwright and Cypress end to end testing. You know, now testing is very vital in every product that you create and develop. Um, this 3-day event is curated to inspire, to mentor, to guide, and expose individuals to the technical skills they will need at every level of their career journey, from junior to intermediate to senior level. The goal is to bridge the skills and gender gap in STEM. So, in the link or in the description of this video, you will find the LinkedIn link for the speaker. So the speaker is Rashon Kiptoo, and he's going to be taking us through, like I've said, testing, and he is a senior front-end engineer at Brainforce. So Rashon, kindly take over.
Thank you. Um, so as you've heard, my name is Rashon Kiptoo. Um, um, I'm really glad to be here, and I'm really glad to be talking to you guys. Um, so my name is Rashon Kiptoo. I'm a senior front-end engineer at Brainstorm First. I develop a product that is called Shortcut. And the Shortcut is more related to e-commerce. It's a plugin for WordPress. We do e-commerce plugin that is going to revolutionize everything that happens on the e-commerce platform. Yeah, so as said from the introduction, I think that is majorly it from me. I've been writing code for over 5 years now, and this is where I am at after 5 years. So today I'm going to be talking about end-to-end testing, and you're going to be doing that with Playwright and Cypress. So what do you so if because I think we cannot do communication directly, so I'm just going to present this while asking questions in the middle and answering them myself. So end-to-end testing is a very important part of software development. The first thing that you should know is that end-to-end testing is there are different types of testing that you can do. There's unit testing. Majorly, I think that is when people try to get confused between the two. There is unit testing, and then there is end-to-end testing. Unit testing will be to test if, let's say, you have a button that adds clicks. When you click, it takes you to a different page. The fact that when you click the button and it responds, or the button is visible, that is a unit test. But when you click the button and it takes you to the correct page, and you make sure that is the correct page, that is an end-to-end test. So if, let's say, end-to-end test is more of what a user would do, right? So it's more of, let's say, logging in. The user has to log in. The user has to create these things. It's a longer process as compared to a unit test, because unit test will only focus on a section of the application, but the end-to-end test is like connecting all the components of the applications together and trying to make a function out of it. So what role does Playwright and Cypress play in testing? Cypress and Playwright are used for end-to-end testing. They are very important, and they in testing they serve the role of test. So you would use if you want to do unit testing, as I mentioned before, you would use something like Jest, right? But in cases of end-to-end testing, you'll need something like a tool like this one, like Playwright and Cypress. Cypress is a bit older than Playwright, but Playwright is a new kid in town, and it's really good in testing. So how to get started with Playwright? Mostly I just recommend going to the docs and following the getting started page. So the documentation for Playwright is here. So basically what you need to do is just come here. You go to, if you already have your project set up, you go here, you go npm init Playwright latest. Then it's going to give you these options that is saying that you choose between TypeScript or JavaScript. If your application is already using, let's say JavaScript, then you use JavaScript, and you choose depending on whatever you're using, right? If you're a beginner right now, because I think some of you guys are junior developers, you might not know the difference between the two, TypeScript and JavaScript. In such a case, I think probably you'll be working with JavaScript. So I'll just say choose JavaScript, choose the one that you want, that you're already using on your application. And then you name of your test folder. So by default, it's going to give you test. So you just take the default. If you want to add to GitHub Actions or workflow, you choose whether or not you want to do that, and then you install Playwright browsers. That is to install Chrome, Firefox, so that you are able to test on multiple browsers. Yeah. So what gets installed is this. You get playwright config.ts. This is what you can use to configure the parameters of the Playwright, and then package.json. I mean, like in the package.json, you'll have Playwright installed, and then you have package look. I'm going to show you case this later at the end of this session. And then to run the test, you can just run npx playwright test. But there's normally one that I love, that is you add the correct flag. That is what I mean here. So you run the test and pass the appropriate flag. By passing this, it's going to give you this UI where you can get a list of all the tests that you have in your project, and you'll see them here. So to get it, this is getting started with Playwright. To get started with Cypress, same thing. This is the documentation for Cypress. So basically what you have to do here is, so you have to install Cypress. First come here, you go to your project, and then you run npm install Cypress. Of course, I think you already have npm by the time you're getting this point. And then when you go to your path, it's going to be added to your package.json. You can do the npm install, but you can also do the direct download. But I don't recommend any of these others. I'll just recommend the first one. This first option is always easy one. Yeah. And then the second thing will be to open the application now. So after doing the npm install, just go to npx cypress open, and then it's going to open the Cypress application like this. And then from here, it's going to ask you if you want to do component testing or do you want to do end-to-end testing. So you just choose end-to-end testing because that is what you want to do today. You can choose component testing later on if you're understanding what you're doing. And then when you go to this is the configuration file for Cypress that is going to be added to your application. Then the second screen that you're going to see after this one is this, the browser type that you want to launch. I'll just go with Chrome, but you can choose any other one of these. Then to write your first test on Cypress, you go to so when you open this up here, it's going to give you, when you enter testing, it's going to give you this kind of page where you can create a new spec. From here, you can describe and say it can visit a page. You do CY.visit. This is like a snippet of code that just visits this page. And this is like an end-to-end test to make sure that it's more like a smoke test. You describe whatever you want to test, and then you describe the condition, and then you write the snippet for it. So in this case, this is like a template spec, and for this to pass, you have to visit this page successfully. And when you run this, it's just going to visit the page, and you can see like it passes. I'm going to show you a demo, but I'm going to be doing this with Playwright. Probably find out why I'm doing with Playwright as we proceed. Yeah, so basically, as I said, you install Cypress with your npm, you do npx cypress open, and then you choose the type of options that you want to do. In this case, it is end-to-end testing, and then you get the UI that allows you to create the tests. Okay, so that's the difference between Cypress and Playwright. So what should you be choosing between Cypress and Playwright? Basically, I would say it is all the same. There's no much difference. Most of the time that you're testing, the only thing that you're testing is trying to look for bugs, right, and avoid them. So both of these testing techniques allows you to do both of that. It's just that it's a different way they do things, and that is something that you have to consider. So, like for example, basing on architecture, the Cypress runs within the browser and execute commands in this same loop as your application, and then Playwright operates outside the browser. So Playwright, for example, if you're running things like what is called headless mode and headful mode. So Playwright will allow you to run headless and headful, sorry. That will mean that with Playwright, you can run in GitHub Actions easily because you are testing outside the browser. You don't have to open up a browser. That is what it means by saying headless. And then headful means like Cypress will have to run headful because you'll have to install a Chromium-based browser and then run. Okay. So Cypress initially did not support Chrome, but in terms of browser support, but I think of late it's now supporting Firefox and Edge. Playwright supports all. It supports Chromium, it supports Firefox, and Microsoft Edge. So with Cypress, you can only test JavaScript. That is where you're limited to. But with Playwright, you can test multiple languages, including Python, .NET, Java, and of course, JavaScript and TypeScript. So with Cypress, it doesn't support what is called parallel testing. That is, if you're running on parallel testing, that means that you have multiple tests at the same time running, which is really important to performance, by the way. If you have two tests that are running, Cypress will tend to wait for the first one to be finished so that it goes to the second. But with Playwright, you can execute multiple tests at the same time, which really is important in terms of performance. And thinking of things like GitHub Actions, you would tend to use Playwright because it's highly performant and it's not going to take a lot of time. Yeah. In terms of support, if you have any issue with Playwright or any issues Cypress for that matter, then the community support is really good for both cases. If you have an issue, let's say, if I have an issue, let's say, how to select class in Cypress, And I'm going to do the same for Playwrights. Okay, so you can see like there is already people trying to ask such kind of questions in both cases, that is Cypress and Playwright. And you see there's always support for and giving you answers for the same thing in both Cypress and Playwright. So I think if you choose either one, then you should be good. Yeah, so this, yeah, for me, I would always go with Playwright, but Cypress is also good. Yeah. So when you have an application and you're trying to think of what should I be testing on an application, especially on end-to-end test, because now it begs a question of like what should you be testing, right? So this is like the toughest part of testing, because there are many things that you can test, but some of things that you're going to test are not going to like first thing, they're not going to be practical. They're not going to be I mean, like what you'll be testing. I mean, like say you have an application that allows you to log in, and there is also a component for reset password. There is a component for set a new password. So if you go to the login page and you have create account, you have things like that. You have verification of whether this password is required and things like that. So when you go to that page, how do you split the cases that you want to test? How do you know what exactly should I be testing so that this is an end-to-end test? And what would be the difference between this and the unit test, right? So this is when you're doing end-to-end tests, you would tend to split out like the actions, right? So when you go to the login page, there's validation that you can do. That is, you test the validation. That is an end-to-end test. You test logging in if it is successful, and then you test logging in when it fails. Okay, so those are the end-to-end tests that you can do in a login page. So the way to identify is the sections that you're going to test is by playing out as if you are the actual user of the application and say, this is the functionality that I want this application to achieve for me. I want this application to give me an error when I try to log in using the wrong password. I want this application to log in successfully and take me to this page when I've provided the correct credentials. Yeah, so that is how you identify end-to-end test. You kind of brainstorm and come up with the functionalities that you expect the application to give you when you're using it. Yeah. I don't know if I'm giving enough examples there, but this is very important. For example, let me pull up this. Let's say, for example, because I used to go here to learn. So let me just log in first. So aside from logging in, because I think you can test that as well, when you go here on Solo Learn page and you've logged in, there's normally the section for courses, and sorry, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. So when you go to a page like this, right? So there's button here that says Start Today. There's a progress list here, and then there is the recent achievements. So you don't want to be tied down to trying to test out whether this displays a specific thing, or you'll be too specific in your testing. So you test on the can this page load? That is the first thing that you test. You test that can I load the page successfully without errors, and then you test when I click on this start today, do I get like this taken to this page correctly without errors? That is the second end-to-end test. So it's as simple as just testing clicks of buttons. When I go to browse more courses, do I get the list of the courses that are sent from the API? And from here, now that is when things like mocking comes in. So you want to make sure that when you're testing, your testing is not influenced by external parameters. Like, for example, say my courses, so maybe the API that lists out the courses is failing. So it doesn't mean that your application is actually failing. It's just that the other end of the application is failing, that is the backend, but your front end side is working. So you don't want to be dependent so much on the backend working. You would want to isolate your front end side by mocking out the API calls. Okay, so you mock out the API calls and make sure that those things that I mocked out, I'm going to show this. Those things that I mocked out are going to be listed here. So for example, my courses, I'm going to have the courses that I mocked. Okay. Yeah, so I don't want to dwell that much on that, but it's a very important thing to learn what exactly you should be testing, both in unit testing and end-to-end testing. Okay. So moving on, the things that you would want to know as advanced techniques of testing, which I don't know how important this topic is going to be to you right now, because this is because you're a beginner and you got introduced to this today, probably. If you already knew about this, and that is good. But in terms of advanced techniques, the things that you should be considering on testing in terms of advanced techniques is the first one is a incorporation of CI/CD with Playwright and Cypress. So if you've ever heard of something called GitHub Action, GitHub Action is an action. I mean, like, sorry, if you've okay, starting with GitHub, right? So you build the application and then you've sent in to GitHub, and you want to let's say deploy, or you're a team of developers each pushing their own changes. So before they can be merged to the main branch, or the branch that is being used as like the development branch, then you'll have to first test your the things that you've submitted, right? So to test that, you don't want to be testing it manually. For example, things that you don't want to be testing every day because you know they worked yesterday. Sometimes you have that confidence, but you don't want to be doing that. So you create a script. Let's say you call it a script that runs. It can do other things, but in this case, we're focusing on testing that runs to test the things that you've done, not just the things you've done, but the things that you did before and the things that have been done on this application, to confirm that they are still working after you've made your changes. So if you've made a change, let's say to move the button to the top, then it's going to retest the whole application if it has been affected by the things that you've done. If, let's say, you've modified a component, like if you're working with React, you've modified a component to have more properties, more props, or different error handling and things like that, then it's going to retest everything, and you don't have to do it yourself. So this is automated. So you have to know as a developer how to integrate your test with the GitHub Actions. So basically, a GitHub action will look some. Let me just pull up something for you. Yeah. All right. Okay, so it's just checking the steps of the things that you. Let me just pull this up real quick. Sorry. All right. Okay. So it's something like this, right? So basically, what it does is when you push to the main branch that is on GitHub. I don't know if guys know about GitHub, but there's normally the branches that you can push to. When you push to the main branch, it's going to try and run on Ubuntu latest, that is a Linux build. Then first thing is to check out the code, set up the node version. You can change the node version. It installs all the dependencies, and then does exactly what I told you before, where it installs Playwright on this Ubuntu, and then it's going to run Playwright tests, and then upload the test results to somewhere. So it's going to show it as a report or test result. So it's just following exactly this path where it does the installation on a brand new thing, and then it does Playwright test, except not including the UI. This is now where the headless and headful plays in. So if you include the UI, then it means you want to visually see the test as they are running. But when you don't include the UI flag here, then you want to when you don't include the UI, sorry, when you don't include the UI, then you want the test to run silent, and you don't want to see the results. Only you want to see a report like this. So you'll see it says upload results, and then Playwright report, and then Playwright test results are going to show up. Yeah. I could have shown you a sample GitHub issue, but that is, a sample GitHub action, but the ones I have are private and belongs to the company that I work for. So I'm not going to do that. So that is as important as it is. So in cases of your interview in the future, when you're looking for a job, the first thing that someone would ask you, especially because I have been asked these questions severally before, is do you know how to write end-to-end tests with Playwright or Cypress? The second thing would be, do you know how to do GitHub actions? So it's basically they are asking about CI/CD. Okay. So the second thing, the maintaining test sheets and scaling efforts. Can Playwright test view application? Yeah. Yes. I'll answer that right now. Sorry. There's a session for question at the end, but that's a good question. Yes, it does. You can test Vue, you can test Angular, you can test React. For maintaining test suites and scaling efforts, what is normally a challenge is that you have these old tests that you wrote a long time before, and then when you modify your application and you want to submit in a new breaking change that is going to affect how you tested before. Let's say a button, because I'm going to keep using an example of a button. Sorry, a button used to be clicked and it goes to a different page, but in this case now, this button now opens a model. Okay, but in the past you used to have it so that it navigates to a different page. So as a developer, it's your role to, whenever you're submitting the changes that you've made, you submit with the updated tests so that this button that used to go to a different page now opens the model, and it is expected to do so even in the tests, so that the test does not fail. So that is the first thing. You make sure that you update the test based on the changes that you make. Okay. The second thing, to be able to maintain and even to prevent cases where the tests don't match with the actual functionality that is present in the page or in your application, is you set up the GitHub action, you set up the CI/CD, so that whenever you push your changes, in case of a failing test, you get the notification right away, so that you don't pile up changes that do not match with your tests in the past. And then to scale and performance issues, this one is almost the same thing. So I'm just going to speak on this for a short while, because performance is really something that needs a lot of advanced technique. For now, when you're testing your applications, I don't think you would be worried so much about performance, because I think it's already handled by Playwright or Cypress. But the things that you have to consider, right? So let's say each test, let's say I have an admin dashboard where I can create users, and I can also assign roles to users, and I can delete users. So there are 3 tests that you're going to be testing there. You have to log in first. Remember that. So the first thing that you have to do is log in, go to the users page, and then add a user. Log in, go to the users page, delete user, or if the user is not present, so log in, go to the users page. If the user is not present, add the user, and then you can delete to test the second test. Or if you want to assign a role, log in, go to the users page. If the user does not exist, you add the user, and then you assign a role. So those are 3 things that you can see, like there's a lot of repetition on in terms of like tasks, the flow of events. So and this case, you're going to find a lot of time when you're doing the testing, you're going to find it every time. So you would want to isolate the logging in part. You test it on its own, and then from that point on, you mock. Okay, so if you want to add a user, you don't have to log in. You mock the login. You make sure that someone who is adding the user is already logged in, or you mock the API so that it doesn't prevent you from adding a user just because you're not logged in. Okay, so it should not depend on the adding of a user. If you want to test assigning of a role, then you don't add a user so that you assign a role. You mock the list of users, and then you assign a role. Okay, so you cut out the things that have already been tested. That is the first thing. You cut out the things that have already been tested, and then your test should only be concentrated on that specific thing that you're testing. Because what happens if you are testing assigning of a role and the adding of a user is failing? That is one thing. But in terms of performance, you would see that logging in, creating a user, and then assigning a role is going to take more time than just mocking and assigning a role. Okay, so it's very important that you isolate the test suites so that you have only one specific thing you're testing, and your test doesn't depend on a lot of things. So you only test one thing, you get the parameters that you require for that test, and then so let's say if my test requires a list of users, when I'm starting out to write the test, the first thing I do is get a bunch of users first, and then I can test with that. Okay. Yeah, so that is very important in terms of performance. It's going to affect you if you don't follow that. The rest of it, you can now work on things like, say, I want to run my test in parallel. I want to allocate this kind of spacing this kind of memory, RAM, right, to my test so that it runs and it is performant. I want to not log. Okay, I don't want to log anything. I only want when the results are out, you send me an email. You do that via GitHub Action. What else can you do to enhance performance? The selectors. When you're selecting, okay, let me show. Let's say I'm selecting this button, this specific thing. You can see there are things that you can use to select that. How Playwright and Cypress work is that they work with the selectors as if you are doing with CSS. That is for Playwright, and sometimes JavaScript for. So the way you normally do documents query selector, and then you do the query selector for this. But your selector has to be you should not have a selector traverse the whole DOM. Okay, so you only say, I want to get by placeholder, an input that has a placeholder of such box. So it's going to get that instead of saying, I want an input that is inside the body, it's inside the div, it's inside the header, and it's inside, now it's inside the header, and it's inside the form, then, yeah. So you don't want to be causing this traversy, and aside from just affecting you, performance is also going to affect, let's say, if someone removes this form and you had a selector. So if someone changes this form to a div and you had a selector that depended on that form, it's going to affect how the selector is going to work, right? So your test is going to fail, but it doesn't mean that the functionality has changed. It is just failing because you did the wrong thing. You used a form. You were specific to the selectors that are not necessary to your test. Yeah. Sorry, I can go on and on. I don't want to bore you with a lot of things. Let's now go to the demo, right? So for the demo, I'm going to do with Playwright. I have a repository from this lady that is for to do application. So this to do up here, I just wanted to give credit to her because I think she did a good job. I'm just hoping this is not going to take a lot of time. Let me start by cloning this repository, right? So, okay. Okay, now I'm going to do this. So since I've, in any case, I think I've already done this, but let me just do it from scratch so that you guys can follow. So let me see how much time I have. I'm going to move a little bit fast when I do the installation and stuff. So just let's follow, and in case you get confused, I think you can replay this video. Hopefully, I think this video is available for replay. Let me just go here, and then I'm going to do git clone. Hopefully, you know what git clone is. It's for cloning a repository on GitHub. If you've not done this already, you will do it. You will find yourself doing it. Don't worry. So this is the React to do app. We're going to do npm install, and then we're going to do npm start, just to make sure that it's working okay. So when you do npm install, npm start, it's going to start your application. That is a React application. Most other application will also follow the same suite. So don't worry. And then also, I think we should open it in VS Code. All right, so it says open. Let me drag this right here so you should be able to see it. This is a React application. It has SRC and some components here and there. It has the CSS, it's using Tailwind. And then this is the node modules folder, the SRC, and the Tailwind and everything. So So it is running successfully. Now we can go to the application itself, right? So here it is. This is, let me delete all this so that I can start again. So there's no task. So this is a to-do application, right? So let's say I want to do something. Let's say I want to, starting on the morning, I want to go to the gym, even though I don't normally go there. Because once went there and I got very tired. Go to the gym, go to the market, probably to get some things, and then watch something. Okay, now it's not the point, but yeah. So you see, I can add stuff to this to-do list, and basically what happens is when you're adding something, you'll see that in the network, you'll see a request is being sent here. If you don't know this already, I'm sorry, I'm taking you real fast, but my assumption is that when you come here, you already know that when you go to inspect, you have these elements. You have console, you have network, sources, and then you have network. Network is for the API call. Okay, so for the API call, so that you do the data fetching, data updating, and all these other things where you want to delete and things like that. So you see that when I do click on the enter, I'm pressing enter, there's an add button here. An action is sent to this, an API is sent to this tasks, so that it creates with this text, and you get an ID back and the text, and you get this kind of listing. Yeah, so here you have to identify the things that you want to test, right? So so what would you want to test? First, you would want to test that, starting from here, I want to test that when I press enter without entering any input, it doesn't get added, right? So you don't get a to-do that is empty. And then you'd also want to test that when adding, it actually adds to the list, right? So it adds to the list, and you'll see the item that you added to the list. Okay. All right. And then that is for a new to do. So if you want to test that a to do is added, you want to test that. So the second thing that you would want to test also here when you're adding a new to do, the third thing actually. So the first thing is to test that the input does not enter something that is an empty input. You want to test that it actually adds a to do, and then you want to test that when you add a to do, the input is clear, and you are able to add different to do. Okay, those are three things that you want to test when you're adding a to do. Now, when you've added the to do, you want to test that when you go to here. So supposing, let's say I mock this API, because when I load this way, and a request is sent so that it gets these tasks that have been saved. You want to test that if I mock this API and I give them a response of a certain number of to-dos, that certain number of to-dos get to be displayed here. That is for the list of to-dos. That is the first thing that you test. And then you would want to test that, so this you want to test that also, that even though this might not be necessary, you want to test that the to-dos that are getting displayed actually shows the correct text, the correct titles of the to-dos. That is for the existing list of to-do. For a specific to-do that has been added, you want to test. So there, I've mentioned two tests when you're listing out to-dos. Then I'm going to mention other tests for a specific to-do. This one, just one, like this. So you would want to test that you can mark to do as completed. That is one. And you see what happens when you complete it. It's strike through. Okay. Even though you don't want to be using something like that, maybe in the future someone will put a check mark instead of this, so the test is going to fail. But in this case, we're going to use a strike through. And then you want to test that you can edit a to do, and you see that a request is made here to edit the to do. And then you want to test also that you can delete a to do, and when you delete it does not appear on the list. So you have three things that you want to test on a specific to do: marking it as completed, editing it, and deleting it. So this part where I'm speaking like this is what you're going to be doing for every application that you're going to make. Is you're going to spend time first to think about the actions that happen on the page and the things that you will want to test. If you don't do that, you don't get like a clear picture of the things that you're going to do testing, right? So that's the important part. When you've identified the things that you want to test, now then that is when you can do the testing. Okay. So you can say, what is the point of doing this testing? If I already know these are the things that are going to test, why should I write the code for it? The point is, tomorrow you don't want to come and click the buttons again. You just run the script and it's going to do the testing for you. Yeah. Now let's install Playwright. I think that is enough talk now. If I move fast, I'm really sorry. I'm just going to go at a pace that is not that fast, but not that slow as well. So the first thing that you'd want to do is to do the installation npm init Playwright latest. That is what you do. And it's going to ask you, as I mentioned, it's going to ask you whether you want to do JavaScript or TypeScript. But in our case, you realize that you are using the JS file. So I'm going to choose JavaScript. You press the down arrow. And then where do you want to put the end-to-end tests? So you can put it in the tests, like in a different folder, but I'm just going to go with the default, that is the tests folder. And then do you want a GitHub Actions workflow? No, I don't. But what happens if I say yes? We will see what it does. I normally create it for myself, but I think Playwright now I create it for you. And let's allow it to create browsers as well. So just go with the default. Then it's going to run that. You'll have to wait though. Right. Yeah. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to create a folder that is called test here. This is the tests folder, and it has the test example, and it has even the demo for to do that you're going to do. But in our case, the to do is a bit different. So we're going to kind of have a different way of doing it. And then it's going to have an example spec that you can use also. And then here it added a GitHub folder for what I mentioned as the GitHub workflow, the option that I chose. So what it does is when you push to the main or master, you create a pull request targeting main or master. I'm going to explain it so that it's easier so that you understand. It sets a time out of 60 minutes, and then it's running on Ubuntu. Checks out the branch. It installs the dependencies, npm CI, and then installs the Playwright browsers, and then it runs the Playwright test. Basically, that is it. And then runs the report and saves it to the path that is called Playwright report. That happens on GitHub. This isn't going to happen here. So what is going to happen here now is we're going to initialize, right, npm. Okay, so we're going to run the command that I showed you, this one, to test with the UI. This one is it. Oh boy. npx playwright test, and then you add the UI flag. Okay, that one. So you're going to run playwright. We're going to run this, and when you do, you remember that we had an example.spec file here that is located here. It has the has title, get link. Those two actually, sorry. So it has title and get link, right? Those are the two tests. I'm going to explain the structure, but if I add one more test here, let's say does something, and then sync, then do this. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't know if I'm missing something. I'm missing something, right? So, yeah, just a second. Oh, sorry. My bad. Yeah. So you see that it has added something else that is called does something, and you're going to see it here as you progress. And if I add another file that is called you'll see that if you refresh here, oh sorry, I guess you have to rerun it. Sorry about that. I don't know why Playwright doesn't do wait, oh no, sorry, it's because you don't have any tests in it. So let's just copy this and paste it here. If you have more tests in it, it's going to show you. Sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah, Playwright is very good in refreshing and doing real-time stuff. So you only have to run this command once, this one. Okay, now we go on with the testing, right? So sorry about the flipping of the screens. I'll be doing this to go to the Playwright UI thing, and I'll be doing this to go back here. So yeah, before I go on, let me just let's see if I can give you an overview of this. So basically, this side lists out the tests that you have with the name of the files. If you had folders, it's going to show as well. If you have subfolders, it's going to show this side here. And then you have the button to run all the tests. You have the button to run each specific test. This one is going to stop the test if you want, if you already, it's there already running. This is for the color mode. You want to reload, you do that. And then you can toggle to only show the output instead of showing the browser. This is the side of the browser, but you can toggle to only show the output in terms of the console. And then there are other things like the locator here that are going to help you to locate maybe a section. If you have a button that you're having a difficulty in selecting, you use that, and it's going to give you a snippet of code that you can use to select. And then the source, these are like the network tab. So you have the logs and the errors in the console. They're going to show the errors here. And then you have the network and the attachments. Okay. This network will help you if you're trying to mock the request, so you know which request gets called and how do you handle that request, right? So basically what I'm going to do now is delete all this, then we start again. So we'll start with to-do.spec spec.ts.jsr. Okay. So sorry guys. So first thing first, when you're running a Playwright test, you have to import test and expect from Playwright, what's it called? Playwright test. Okay, you have to import those two. And then for our case, we will need a sample of to-do so that we can mock them out for purposes of mocking. So test front-end to-dos, okay? And then we have second of list. When you see, sorry, sorry, when you see, so first thing when you're doing the mocking for this example, I know you realize that when we were doing the listing here, you see the structure that I have for my to-dos. Oh, sorry, I disabled it. But you see the structure that I have for to-dos is like there is an ID that is, let's say, 1, and then to-do. Okay, is an ID, let's say 2, and then to-do, and then more and more. Okay. Now we have 3 sections that I mentioned. So the first one is for new to-do, for existing list of to-dos, and for one existing to-do. So how you isolate those things, you'll say describe, then you'll say new to-do, then you do the things for the new to-do here. Okay, then you do test.describe existing list, and then you do the test for that here. Okay, then you do another describe for existing single to do, and then you do the test here. Sorry, when I'm doing like this, I cannot see your comments, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to see if you have sent any comment. I'm just going to be picking once in a while. Now, so this is the fun part. Now we start doing the testing part. So we want to, let's say for example, we testing the first test for, so as I mentioned, we let me comment it also that you know. I'll just follow the recommendation from these guys, and then we have test case for clear input after adding to do, and then you have test case cannot add an empty to do. Okay, and then in this case we test case display existing list of to do, test case test case deleting displays correct. Yeah, so that's the test case for that. And then for this one, existing single to do, so we test case if we can delete the to do, we test case if we can edit, and we test case if we can mark the test completed. How about that? So we have 3 things that we can test. Now we do the test now. So we do, to write the test, you just write test, then add new to do the way it has written. I'm just going to follow that. Now for this we have to, sorry, I have GitHub Copilot enabled, so it's kind of already doing exactly what it should do. So I'm just going to use that so that even this session is a bit faster. So see the first line here. The first thing that you have to do is navigate to localhost 3000. That is where you had, sorry, I'll just have to restart this. So you realize that you have to navigate to localhost 3000. That is the first thing that you, so you get your application. If it was a different URL, then it's going to navigate to that URL. Okay. Now, so sorry, let's start again. So it's going to navigate to 3000. It's going to look for an input placeholder that says add new to do. In our case, it says what things to do. Okay, let me just write it so that we don't. So await page will go to 3000, and then sorry, you await page.fill, and in fact I'm going to showcase this input with a placeholder that is called what things to do, then it has a question mark with buy milk. Let's even test that specific thing. So we have this new to do, it's added here, and then when you click on this, you'll see that what it does is it goes to locate, you see it's highlighted, right? So it locates this, but you realize that there's still a loading thing here. So you don't want to be navigating when it's loading, so you'll have to wait for the page to completely load. So to wait for the page to completely load, you say await page dot wait for load state network idle. So that is when all the things have been fetched on the page before you can start doing things. Okay, so let's do this again. So if I do run the test again, it's going to go, and you'll see going to go to what things to do, and then going to fill with buy milk. It's going to, sorry, I don't know if it is as clear as it should be. I don't know if there is a slow-mo for this, but if you follow, you see that it still has a placeholder up to here. But when you reach the end of it, it has filled it with buy milk. So it's like a person doing the thing. So it's more of a robot. That's why I love this part. So it does exactly what someone would do. Okay. And I'm sorry if this session is going to take long, but I'm going to try and move faster from here. So so you've waited for the you fill the input. The next thing is to click the enter. So you press the enter, or you click the add button. But in our case, we're going to click the enter. And by the way, we had like, so the reason I had this so that I do is something like this. Zero, the title. It's not even the title, it should be the text. So yeah, something like that. So now we await, we press the enter button. So to press the enter, you write something like this: page dot keyboard dot press enter. But it's already knowing that. So when you press enter, you've added the to do. So you'll have to confirm if the to do actually exists. So from here, sorry guys, from here you can see like the to do is in a task list, and it's called a task item. Okay, so what you'll be looking for when you're writing the code for it is you'll say, I want a task item that has a text of whatever I passed in for the first item. So you'll say you await, and you expect that when you do page.locator of the task item that has text that says buy milk, you expect it to be visible. Sorry, so it's to be visible. Okay, you expect that after doing that it should be visible. So if I run this and it presses the enter, you see buy milk is here, and it's expected that it's visible and it shows. Okay, so the beauty of that is that you can test this again, you can keep running it, and it's just going to work. Okay, it's always going to be working. That's very beautiful. That is what I love about this. Now we test these other things, like now does it clear input when you so we test this. It's very simple. You just follow the same thing. So you realize that, okay, so before, okay, let me just go on, then we'll see how it goes. We press the enter, and then we expect that when you get this by placeholder, it has empty text. That is basically what it is. So you expect that the input that had the placeholder of this now has empty text. It's like just speaking of the things that you want. So before I even proceed from here, there are things that you should know, that this part and this part are repeated for every test case, okay, where we have to navigate to this. And then, so in such a case, you'll say that for all my tests, you'll say test dot before each, because it has to happen for each. Okay, I hope you understand this part. It's very good to know. And then you do that. Those two things needs to be done for each test, and then you don't have to be doing it for each and every test. Okay, now it's going to navigate to localhost for each test, and then so it's, if there is something that has to be done for each of your tests, you do before each. If there is something that needs to be done before all your tests, that is, doesn't have to be kept repeated for each test, you do before all. If there is something that needs to be done after each test, you do test that after each. If maybe you want to delete to do so that it helps you to test again, you do that. Okay. So I'm going to add the other test for cannot add empty to do. We're going to test all of them together. So we say text item, what things here. So basically this test is wrong. So basically how you would test that something has not been added is by checking that here there's something called children, right? So here, this is the task list that contain each task item. So if I do, what I do, if I duplicate like this, I have this task list will now have 2 children. Okay, so you'd say when I'm testing, when I started out, I had 1 child, or I had this number of children. When I finish the test, I need to still have the same number of children, because I don't want this to be added if it is empty. So to test that, you'll do you'll say you need what is it called? You need to get the page count. Okay, so you'll say const existing task count. Sorry, because this is JavaScript, you can still write anything. So you can say page.locate at task item.count. This is going to give you the number of existing task count. And then you say, if you get, after doing this, if you get the task count, it should be the same as the existing task count. It should not have changed. It is exactly that way. It's as simple as that. And now if I run all of this at the same time, it's going to see it's going to run in parallel. That is the beauty of Playwright, actually. So it's with Cypress, it would have run this and this and then run this, which is not performant. Okay, that's why I'm using Playwright. So to do this, to showcase this, what happens here is when you go here, it goes to what things to do, and then adds it, and then you see it confirms that the input is clear. And then same here, you try to type and you press enter, and you see there's nothing happening, and you confirm that nothing happened after pressing enter with an empty input. Now let's go on with the other tests. I don't know if there's a way I can attach this to this call so that you can maybe take a look at it later, but I'll contact the moderators and see. So if you want to test now displaying existing to-dos, before you test this, because we want to control what gets displayed on the page. Okay, so we want to control what gets displayed on the page. So how to do that is we do test dot before each, that is same page that and that, and then before each we still have to navigate like that, like this. Okay, that is the first thing. But the second thing is we have to mock. Okay, we have to mock the request for getting the task, so that you don't we don't get tasks from the database. We just want to get the tasks that we tell it to get. So it's going to give these tasks. I'll show you in a second what this means. So mock the tasks. Okay, so we'll say await page.route, and then we have this we use a regular expression to match, and then we'll say it is of this nature, and then we fulfill by saying this should respond with something like that. So it's going to respond with our test to do these ones. And yeah, so and basically what happens is if you go here and say you want to display existing to-dos, because I've not even written a different test. So if you were to navigate here, and you'll see I have my mock to-dos, okay? I have my mock to-dos. If I be messy here, and you'll see that if I run this again, and you go here somewhere, where is it? You see something like that, right? Yeah, there it is, my mock to do. So it's, you only get what you've mocked, okay? So it's going to show only what you mocked. Okay, so now we go on. What makes it easier for us to know what exactly we're going to display? Sorry, what is that? So for existing to-dos, we want to just test that the number of items that get displayed is exactly the same as, so there's a difference. So there's a difference between saying I want to test now that it displays the correct text for each to do, and for existing to-dos. For this one, you just have to count the number of items that display to be matching the number of the length of the mock data that you provided. So you say await expect page.locator, and then you say dot task item, then you do dot count to be same as the length of your to-do thing, right? In this case, await is not necessary, but I'm just going to leave it. I don't think oh yeah, you use this. Sorry. Well, will I did the wrong thing. I think that would have failed. You say to have count. There's a better way to do it. Okay, because you already did it here. So yeah, so this is going to say to have that specific count, and then if you want to test now if it has the correct text, then you'll say for const to do of, this is a way to loop in JavaScript. Test to do, you'll say if page.locator task item has this text and expect it to be visible. Okay. When you come here to run, you run the two of them. See, it runs in parallel, and it does it as fast as possible. So it traverses through all this and make sure that it's displaying the correct text. So you don't have to, if there is like a million records in the database, you don't have to fetch all of them. You just mock 3 of them and make sure that you make sure that the data that gets displayed is the correct ones. You don't have to fetch the million records so that you can test that. Now, because this session is going to, I don't want to bore you guys a lot. I'm going to send this part, but I'm going to just, which one would I test for you guys? I'm going to test this. Let's test the delete. Okay. So to test and delete, I don't want to prolong this session because I think you already get the point of what I'm trying to drive in. So if you're testing whether a to-do has been deleted, you say the task count first. Existing task count, you get the count of the items that are present in the page. Okay. Well, okay. So before that, because we had on a different description, I would love if we do this again so that we are mocking. Okay, so existing task count is this, and then now we await we click the delete button. So if you see here, the delete button is based on two things. So it's not. So the developer who wrote this did not really add classes that you can select. So it becomes a bit difficult to select something like this because now it is, you have a button and you have a button, so there's a conflict. So it's in a task item, and it's a button that is the second item. Okay. Hopefully you understand what I mean. So let me repeat again. It sounds funny. It is in a task item, and there are two buttons in it, and you take the second button. Okay, I think that was clear enough. Then on the so we'll say you are looking for this button, right? So you're looking for the button and you want to click it. So we'll say await page.locator. We are locating a task item that has text. First, we'll have to look for this text by milk, because that is one we want to delete. Then we look for a button, but instead, because there are two buttons, we have to be specific and say we want the nth child. That is one. That is the first child that we get, and then we click on that. Oh, no. Sorry, it's based on index. Sorry, if you say 0, it's going to pick the first one. If you go 1, then it's second. I know you know about the arrays, so you know how indexes work. So don't be so much absorbed by this. These are things that are present in the documentation. You can just go to the documentation. You're going to learn these things. They are available. They're easy to learn. They're easy to select, and it's going to be easy for you. Don't worry. Then you have page locator, task item to have count, and then you do the existing task count -1. Make sure that it has been deleted. So if you go to this existing to do and click on delete, you'll see that the list has reduced in number, and delete is checked. Yeah, so that is basically, I don't want to mock these others. I don't want to spend a lot of your time. I think this session should be fun, and I think it should not be scaring you or giving you what is called jitters. It should be fun, and you see, I wasn't even smiling when I was doing the theory part, but when I got to my favorite part where I do the coding, I smile a lot. So this is the part that is very interesting, and for people who love coding, you would really love doing testing as well. And remember the things that I mentioned. Isolate the things that you want to test, know which parameters you're going to require for your test, and then from there on it should be simple. Okay. You can start as simple as, to do application like this, you can start as simple as maybe an application that you built when you're still getting started. There's junior developer, and then there is one who is really getting started. Yeah. So basically that's it. I'm going to open the session for Q&A now. Sorry if I took a shorter time or longer time. Anybody is offended?
Okay, thank you, Kiptoo. So several feedback, it's very informative and highly insightful. Wilson had a question. I think I've heard as if you've answered it. Can Playwright test a view application?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, Playwright can test. Let me actually mention the things that Playwright can test, right? So you can test JavaScript, you can say TypeScript, Python, .NET, and Java. So that means that anything that uses JavaScript can be tested with Playwright. Anything that uses Java can be tested with Playwright, and anything that uses Python can be tested with Playwright. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe a question from me. How important is testing? Okay, already testing is important. But where especially the client does not know the importance of testing, how important is it in a developer who is not just a tester, who is also a full stack developer, to integrate testing, and how do they explain it to the client?
Okay, yeah, so that's an interesting part. So um, someone would ask you, or maybe your client will ask you, how reliable is your application, right? So your answer should be anything to do with, say, my site is reliable because it is well tested, and there are not going to be bugs. But the only way that you can say something is well tested is if you've done this and you've written the test. Okay. Yeah.
So do we add quotation for testing? Or
Yeah. Add a quotation for testing is as important as it should be. It's part of the software development. It's not something that you just pass by.
okay. Joshua has asked, have you used Storybook before for writing tests? If so, how will you compare it with Playwright?
Yeah. So, well, for what I know with Storybook, it's not really for writing tests. It's for manual testing. So you don't really, with Storybook you don't really mock. It's more for unit test. You don't mock like functionalities. What you do with Storybook is, let's say you have a component, let's say a button. You provide a button with different variation, maybe with different colors, how it's going to look, and things like that. Um, and Storybook is component-based testing. That is the most important bit that you should get. As Playwright is for end-to-end testing, so you have to test the whole functionality. Yeah, I'm answering your question.
Okay. Clarence is asking, as a newbie in front end, when should one start testing, and does it play a big role in getting employed in the current job market?
Yes, uh, uh, for okay. So the first question for the newbie, I'd say the moment that you understand what you're doing, or you can build anything functional, that is when you can start writing the tests. Yeah, and then that whether or not it plays a big role is, I'd say it plays really important role, and for places that I've gotten jobs, that I've worked for, the interviews that I've been answering, most of them actually ask me, "Do you know how to do testing with Playwright or Cypress? Do you know how to do unit tests?" So it is very important in development, and it's a good
Okay.
thing to have.
Maybe also a question for me, how do you document testing? Because you can't make public how you are, or are you, is it okay to publicly put information how you're testing your application? And if not, how do I go proving that I have documentation and understand how to communicate my testing
So
approach?
yeah, okay. So I think I'm still sharing my screen. There's this thing that is called Playwright report. I don't think I have right here. So here, it's going to generate a report for you that shows that you've tested. You can always use this one to show that you're actually writing test for your application for someone who is going to understand. But some clients are not going to understand, and you have to know that. So this is a more technical bit of, and it's going to help you mostly as a developer, so that your application doesn't mess you, right? So because things fail.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I don't know if there is any other question. I think mine have been answered. Oh wait, I have a last one. Which resources do you use to upskill in testing?
Yeah. So for me, mostly I read the documentation. But I guess when I started out testing, I did some YouTube tutorials. So I don't have the exact things right now, but I can maybe give it a
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll look for some and share. Yeah, I
try.
think. I'm
But
saying if once you find once you find the resources, you can share with us, and we can be able to share with the community as well. Thank you so much, Kipto, for your knowledge. I think I will look for you. We have another session with regards to testing. I feel like it's still an aspect of software development that we have yet to fully explore, even in the Kenyan landscape and in the African landscape. I think you can agree. You know very few good testers, and maybe before I finish completely, do you test before we develop, especially in large scale? How do you go about, so you have to wait for the developers to finish, or do you, because you know the functionality, you just write the test for the functionality?
okay, so let me clarify. There's a pattern that you people normally follows. It's called in maybe large corporations. I've not really done this. I don't know even know who does this, but it's called test driven development, where you write the test first so that you can write the development. So you'll say, I want it so that when I call this function, it gives me this response. But mostly, since because I am a developer, right? So I write the code and then I write the tests for it. So it's
Yeah.
just how I do it.
Yeah, even I think how I have encountered testing is I first write the code and then I write the test. But now I realize that that really is not sustainable for large scale system, especially when you are more than one person in the team and you're building something huge. Somebody is asking, do QAs do the testing in production?
So um, well, there's different kind of testing, right? So whatever you're mentioning, that you've combined two things at the same time. There's QA, and there's also what is called acceptance testing. Uh, what you're mentioning, QA, quality assurance, is normally done on staging. You don't do it on production. Okay, and then also if anybody in this community is aspiring to be a QA or quality assurance, I want to highly encourage you, and I would really beg you to learn how to test with these testing frameworks and what is called automated testing. So please take a look at this. It's very important for you as a QA tester to know things like this. Yeah, but for QA in production, you don't do that. You do what's called acceptance testing, and you do very minimal testing in production, isolated testing.
Yeah, and also there's a certification in QA, because I remember there's somebody who reached out to me and they wanted me to source a QA for them, and they specified a particular my tongue certification. It was refused, but yes, you understand, for QA. So have a look at that if you're really interested in this testing landscape. I think it's important that you realize that such certification matter in some areas. Some areas, some things don't matter, but in others, it really does matter. So thank you so much, Kito. Like I have said, and I'll keep my word, I'll definitely look for you. We see if we can do a good series on testing, and trying to bring in more people in this, or to just to emphasize the importance of this and gain and introduce and bring this exposure. So thank you for your time. Thank you everyone for coming and for joining and for being an active audience. Let us go and follow Kipto on LinkedIn. I've put his link in the email, in any communication I've sent out, and also in the link of this video. And let us go follow him and connect with him and interact with him in this field and even in more. So thank you, Kipto. Have a nice afternoon. For the rest, we will meet in the afternoon. We have another session from 2 to 4. The session will be on, it will be on good design pattern practices. So let us meet then. So take care. Have a nice afternoon. Bye bye.
I guess.